What up, YouTube? This is your boy, Adam of Nola, and we are once again diving into the joy, the happiness, and the glory that it is Leviticus 19. Well, Leviticus in general. We'll be starting with Leviticus 19. Before that, I just want to mention quickly that I'm pretty happy today because I have a channel. I have a YouTube channel. And I know you're thinking that's the dumbest update we've ever heard. Of course you have a YouTube channel. That's what we're watching. There's always kind of a weird delay that goes on because these videos take time to record, time to edit, and then they get put into a queue where they will be released on a given cycle on YouTube. So I know that you obviously know I have a channel if you're watching this, but today or this week was the first time that we got launched. So I'm pretty happy about that. And already getting some early activity, which is very encouraging. So hopefully this series is proving to be interesting to some. But without too much ado today, I do want to kind of dive right into it. Again, we're in Leviticus 19. We just finished Leviticus 18, which was all of the wonderful ways that God doesn't want us to have sex. So thank God for that, literally and figuratively. Because, this weekend I was going to do some bestiality. I was so close. I was going to go grab me a goat and just have that. And then thankfully I read Leviticus 18 and I realized that's wrong. I was also going to sacrifice one of my children to Molech, but I realized that that's wrong. So then I had to sacrifice my kid to a whole different god. Man, that was embarrassing. That was so embarrassing, but I got that taken care of. So thankfully I did not sacrifice my child to the wrong god, Molech. I picked an entirely different god. So I'm in really good standing right now with the Lord. So getting into Leviticus 19, this is ritual and moral holiness. Ooh, goody. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to all the congregation of the Israelites and say to them, you shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. You shall each revere your mother and father, and you shall keep my Sabbaths. I am the Lord your God." Yes, we know. You say it often. "Do not turn to idols or make cast images for yourselves. I am the Lord your God." And yes, if some of this sounds really familiar, it's because for some reason, large swaths of codes handed down from God in Exodus are repeated in Leviticus, sometimes almost word for word. Sometimes they get repeated again in Deuteronomy. Some things I guess they just wanted to hammer home. When you offer a sacrifice of well-being to the Lord, offer it in such a way that it is acceptable on your behalf. It shall be eaten on the same day you offer it or on the next day, and anything left over until the third day shall be consumed in fire. If any of it is eaten on the third day, it is an abomination. It will not be acceptable. All who eat it shall be subject to punishment, because they have profaned what is holy to the Lord, and any such person shall be cut off from the people. We go from these ridiculous overreactions. We go from, yeah, you ate something on the third day. Okay, maybe those are not God's specific commandments. Maybe you shouldn't be eating it on the third day. I don't know. God doesn't like leftovers, I guess. God has a real problem with leftovers. And we saw with Aaron that the punishment for offering unholy fire was to burn his kids alive. Yay. And then force Aaron and the whole nation of Israel to atone for the horrible things that they did. And now if you eat leftovers, this is the commandment against leftovers, apparently. If you eat leftovers, it's not just that you're bad. It's not just that you've made a mistake. It's that you have profaned what is holy to the Lord. You are subject to punishment, and you shall be cut off from the people for eating leftovers. When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap to the very edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall not strip your vineyard bare, or gather the fallen grapes of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the alien. I am the Lord your God. Here's like the pull string. I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. You shall not steal. You shall not deal falsely, and you shall not lie to one another, and you shall not swear falsely by my name, profaning the name of your God. I am the Lord. You shall not defraud your neighbor. You shall not steal, and you shall not keep for yourself the wages of a laborer until morning. You shall not revile the deaf or put a stumbling block before the blind. You shall fear your God. I am the Lord. Yes. You shall not render an unjust judgment. You shall not be partial to the poor or defer to the great. With justice you shall judge your neighbor. You shall not go around as a slanderer among your people, and you shall not stand idly by when the blood of your neighbor is at stake. I am the Lord. I wish at the end of one of these, he'd just say, I am Chad, like just to see if you're listening. Like, are you paying attention? Because if you are, that will sound really weird if he doesn't end it with I am the Lord. You shall not hate in your heart anyone of your kin. You shall reprove your neighbor, or you will incur guilt yourself. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against any of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. You shall keep my statutes. You shall not let your animals breed with a different kind. You shall not sow your field with two kinds of seeds. Wait, what? Nor shall you put on a garment made of two different materials. Okay, what the hell? I mean, most of these laws that have been handed down, well, I can't even say most. Many of them seem de rigueur. Don't murder, don't steal, don't cheat. I mean, most of this stuff, a good portion of this stuff makes common sense. I mean, of course, then they keep veering off into stuff about sexual mores and weird rites of clean and unclean and all that. So I can't even say most of it makes sense. But it's weird how we go from love your neighbor as yourself. Okay. The golden rule, which, by the way, did not come from Judaism or Christianity, but that's fine. I don't care where it first originated from. It's good practice. Love your neighbor as yourself. Yay, that's good. And then we go to, you shall not let your animals breed with a different kind. Okay, random. Really random. I'm not sure why that even has to be in there, but I have to wonder, like, normally that's not even a problem because your chicken is not going to be breeding with your goats. Okay. It's just not going to happen. You can put them in the same pen all day and it's not going to happen. But I mean, if we read this, I guess Hebrews and Israelites, they can have no mules, apparently. Because the only way to make a mule is to breed a horse with a donkey. You cannot make a mule any other way. You cannot have two mules that then go on to make a mule, because every mule that's ever been born is sterile because it's a hybrid. So I guess God hates mules. Sure. You shall not sow your field with two kinds of seed. What does that even mean? I mean, in general, I don't think there are too many farmers that are interlacing different types of seed in their field. I mean, it makes tilling the field and caring for the field and harvesting it, it makes it a pain in the ass. But why do we even have to put this here? I mean, if you put grapes and barley in the same field, I mean, are you going to be separated from your people? Are you going to be burned alive like Aaron's kids for unholy fire? I mean, what? It's so weird. And then the last of these, nor shall you put on a garment made of two different materials. Where does that come from? I mean, I understand you're not going to explain every law. Like when you say thou shalt not murder. Okay, you don't have to tell me why I don't have to murder. All right. But when you throw out something like nor shall you put on a garment made of two different materials, there were practical reasons to use different materials in a garment. It's, I mean, there are very good reasons to do that. Why does God care? I can only guess that it has something to do with maybe being humble. Like, if you had fancy clothes, they might have a lot of different materials in them. Whereas if you're very humble, you would have just simple clothing. I don't know, but it's one of those things that's in Leviticus and in all of the Pentateuch, really, but especially Leviticus, where some of these laws makes no sense. And keep in mind, people want to get on your back about, no, you can't have gay relations or whatever, because of what they read in the previous chapter of Leviticus. And then it's only a few paragraphs later that we're hearing that you can't put on a garment made of two different materials. And they don't care about the fact that half their clothing has two or more materials, and they don't care about this law, and yet they still want to enforce selectively the laws that fit their identity politics. And most of the time, they don't even feel any sense of shame over this, which is really sad. One of the things you'll hear often is that's the Mosaic law, which when I was a kid, that actually threw me off, because I'm like, what do these laws have to do with mosaics? Like, we're not making mosaics here. These are laws. But no, in this context, mosaic means laws handed down from Moses, right? Or handed down to Moses, I guess, although I would argue they're probably handed down from Moses. And then modern day Christians will jump through all sorts of hoops to tell you all the reasons why this Mosaic law applies to us, but that one doesn't, because they'll come up with rubrics like, well, the ones that are repeated in the New Testament are the only ones that we need to care about. But that is not what Jesus said. That nowhere does it say in the Old Testament or the New that any of these laws are null and void, that any of these laws you don't have to follow. These laws are, according to the Bible itself, are all of them just as valid as the others. There is no place in the Bible where it says, hey, that stuff we said about, garments with two materials, forget that. And the one about a man sleeping with a man as with a woman, yeah, don't do that either. That we were feeling really bigoted that day. No, they in the book itself, they hold all these up as being sacrosanct. And if the people you're talking to don't want to follow that, that's fine, but they are not following the Bible then. Then they are picking and choosing whatever laws suit them best to fit their agendas and their identity politics. If a man has sexual relations with a woman who is a slave, designated for another man, but not ransomed or given her freedom, an inquiry shall be held. They shall not be put to death, since she has not been freed, but he shall bring a guilt offering for himself to the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting, a ram as guilt offering. And the priest shall make atonement for him with the ram of guilt offering before the Lord for his sin that he committed, and the sin he committed shall be forgiven him. Once again, we need a lot more slavery laws. And you know why? Because God hearts slavery. That's right. When you come into the land and plant all kinds of trees for food, then you shall regard their fruit as forbidden. 3 years it shall be forbidden to you. It must not be eaten. In the 4th year all their fruit shall be set apart for rejoicing in the Lord. But in the 5th year you may eat of their fruit, that their yield may be increased for you. I am the Lord your God. You shall not eat anything with its blood, which we just talked about. You shall not practice augury or witchcraft. You shall not round off the hair on your temples or bar the edges of your beard. You shall not make any gashes in your flesh for the dead or tattoo any marks upon you. I am the Lord. Again, we go back and forth between rules that sometimes seem fairly logical to then rules that are clearly hateful or bigoted, to rules that sometimes just don't make any damn sense. It is very clear to me that God believes in augury and witchcraft. I mean, it doesn't make any sense otherwise to think that he wouldn't. So if Christians believe in these divinations, I really can't blame them if they really want to be literalist, because the book itself speaks so many times repeatedly about witchcraft and augury and divination and how it's bad and evil and how you should put them to death. But if you believe in these things, if you believe in ghosts and spirits and talking to the dead and all that other stuff, then I don't want to go off on that direction right now. But it is really sad to me that the Almighty God absolutely believes in this stuff to the extent of wanting to prescribe death penalties for it. I mean, does he believe in ghosts? Does he believe in alien abductions? Does he believe that 911 was an inside job? I mean, where does it end? I clearly, in the world of the Old Testament, according to Yahweh, the storm god, witchcraft is real and it's bad, I guess. And in Exodus, the literal translation was, you cannot allow a female sorcerer to live. Here, the translation, it's the same. I'm still using the NRSV here. The translation is witchcraft. But either way, whether it's a witch or it's witchcraft, once again, we are seeing that apparently if you have a penis and you want to do these things, that's fine. Because the main problem is doing these things with a vagina. I guess if you have a penis who want to do these things, you can get away with it, but we can't allow people with vaginas to do this. You shall not round off the hair on your temples or mar the edges of your beard. Now, I do know that, like in New York, for example, you'll see Hasidic Jews, and they are keeping to this very, very closely. But it is weird to me that why do we have grooming standards in these laws? The only thing I can imagine is that this is God's way of setting up essentially identity politics, setting up identity markers for his people. Because when we see representations of Egyptians, it seems like they were much more likely to be clean shaven or to have, cut their beard down very close. When we see people like the Assyrians, and they would be pretty close in nature to like the Canaanites. They have fuller beards, but still seem more trim. So I wonder if this is just a way of setting his people apart. But at the end of the day, I'm theorizing about why it's there, but none of it makes any damn sense. Like, we really have to put laws here that say you can't mar the edges of your beard. Come on, man. I mean, did God not understand that this is just semantics? This is aesthetic stuff, and it changes over time. And you can say, well, he doesn't want you to change with the mores of the time of the day, but it's just a particular style of facial hair. Why is one good and the other's bad? It doesn't make any sense. And then you can't have any gashes in your flesh for the dead or tattoo any marks upon you. So, I'm going to hell. We already knew that, right? I mean, I'm straight on hell. So, yay, hell. Do not profane your daughter by making her a prostitute, that the land not become prostituted and full of depravity. You shall keep my Sabbaths and revere my sanctuary. I am the Lord. Let's be very clear about this. It says, do not profane your daughter by making her a prostitute. But you can sell her into slavery. That's fine. That's already been covered. I mean, to be clear, I do not condone the making of anyone's daughter into a prostitute. I mean, if she does it as an adult, that's her own business. But never make your daughter a prostitute. I mean, never make your son a prostitute. Could we mention that? Although, as I mentioned when we went through Leviticus 18, I think there were certain things that they just did not even comprehend. They didn't comprehend, I think, things that women do, men could do too. And your daughter could become a prostitute. Your son could become a prostitute. They didn't really even seem to have a comprehension of these kind of things. But the fact that we have to First of all, we have to make the prohibition specific for daughters and not sons. And then the fact that it's fine to sell your daughter into slavery, it's just not fine to make her a prostitute. Okay. Do not turn to mediums and spiritualists. Do not seek them out to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. Again, with the mediums and the spiritualist thing. Now, I guess the nice thing here is that at least these terms are gender neutral. So they're not claiming that you can go to a medium who has a penis. But I don't understand. I mean, clearly God totally believes in all this stuff. You shall rise before the aged and defer to the old, and you shall fear your God. I am the Lord. When an alien resides with you in your land, you shall not oppress the alien. The alien who resides with you shall be to you as the native born among you. You shall love the alien as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Can we please get that posted in every courthouse in the country, and get that posted in every school room of every public school? All these people want to put the Ten Commandments everywhere. Let's put this, the Word of God, and this has already been repeated at this point multiple times. When an alien resides with you in your land, you shall not oppress the alien. The alien who resides with you shall be to you as the native born among you. You shall love the alien as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. If you don't understand that, find a new damn religion. Hypocrites. You shall not cheat in measuring length, weight, or quality, which basically makes every man an abomination in the eyes of God, because every man talks about his junk like it's longer than it is. You shall have honest balances, honest weights, an honest ephah, and an honest hin. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. You shall keep all my statutes and all my ordinances and observe them. I am the Lord. Once again, this is another one of these passages where it says, you shall not cheat in measuring length, weight, or quality. You shall have honest balances, honest weights, honest ephah, honest hin. Okay, all that's great. Can't we just say, don't cheat? Period. I mean, I know a lot of the cheating that would have been going on is with these merchants, and using dishonest weights and bad scales and all that. But can't we just say, hey, don't cheat people in any way, whether you're selling them goods, and measuring their stuff or whatever? I mean, let's just not cheat. But I feel like sometimes this always has to get so specific as to almost like they want to leave loopholes. And I don't know why. All right, that is Leviticus 19. Moving on to Leviticus 20. The Lord spoke to Moses. This is penalties for violations of holiness. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, say further to the Israelites, any of the Israelites or of the aliens who reside in Israel who give any of their offspring to Molech shall be put to death. The people of the land shall stone them to death. I myself will set my face against them and will cut them off from the people, because they have given of their offspring to Molech, defiling my sanctuary and profaning my holy name. And if the people of the land should ever close their eyes to them when they give off their offspring to Molech and do not put them to death, I myself will set my face against them and against their family, and will cut them off from amongst their people, them and all who follow them in prostituting themselves to Molech. So this, first thing I got to say is, I know we talked about this in the last chapter. I know that Molech was the big bad. He was the Canaanite god. Ooh, bad Canaanites. Yahweh hates Canaanites. Yahweh hates Molech. There's a clear pissing contest going on here. But why do we have to say that you can't give up your children to Molech? Can't we just say that you can't sacrifice your children, period? Oh, that's right. Once again, we can't do that because at times our God calls for child sacrifice. And we don't want to get caught in that logical trap now, do we? This constant obsession with Molech is just so lame. And this just reiterates how much of these commandments, they're not really commandments of what to do or not to do. Instead, they are commandments more specifically geared towards don't be like them. I know any apologist would read this and say it's a whole paragraph against child sacrifice. How can you be against that paragraph? And of course, I'm not against the idea that we're banning child sacrifice, but it's not specifically banning child sacrifice. It's banning child sacrifice to Molech. And it's saying all the bad things that will happen if you do this with Molech. And if you want to take that as a general ban on child sacrifice, that's great on you. But the fact is, that's not what the words say. And instead, this has to be a constant pissing contest between one God and another. And then guess what? Now we have to talk about mediums and spiritualists again. If any turn to mediums or spiritualists, prostituting themselves to them, I will set my face against them and will cut them off from the people. Consecrate yourselves, therefore, and be holy, for I am the Lord your God. Keep my statutes and observe them. I am the Lord. I sanctify you. All who curse father or mother shall be put to death. Having cursed father or mother, their blood guilt is upon them. If a man commits adultery with the wife of his neighbor, both the adulterer and the adulteress shall be put to death. The man who lies with his father's wife has uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall be put to death. Their blood guilt is upon them. If a man lies with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall be put to death. They have committed perversion. Their blood guilt is upon them. If a man lies with a male as with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall be put to death. Their blood guilt is upon them. If a man takes a wife and her mother also, it is depravity. They shall be burned to death. Ooh, specifics. Both he and they, that there may be no depravity among you. If a man has sexual relations with an animal, he shall be put to death, and you shall kill the animal. What did the animal do? If a woman approaches any animal and has sexual relations with it, you shall kill the woman and the animal. They shall be put to death. Their blood guilt is upon them. So just so much gross. So much gross. First of all, going back to the prior paragraph, the stoning. Telling your people that for any crime, you must stone the people is barbaric and wrong. I don't want to hear any crap about how, oh, this was old time stuff. This is old time justice. No. God could say otherwise. Okay? If this was really God talking, God should actually have a moral compass that's slightly higher than the Cretans that populate the land at that time. And if he doesn't, then shame on him. Because it's one thing to say that somebody should be punished, should be jailed. I mean, I could even accept the death sentences, even though there's, of course, modern debate about whether death sentences in any case are proper. But fine, you have death sentences. But stoning someone, telling your people that they have to stone someone, that goes well beyond a death sentence. That is, hey, I want your whole community to get together and do this thing in the most manual, nasty way possible so that you all participate in it. Basically, you are drawing your people into this guilt, into this whole nasty ceremony of death. And it's gross. It's just really gross. And then, as we go through these other laws and everything is, if you commit adultery, you'll be put to death. And if you uncover your father's nakedness, you're put to death. And if a man lies with a male as with a woman, he's put to death. Death. It's not funny, but it reminds me of, there's a Far Side cartoon where the woman's studying equine medicine, and it says that she's able to breeze through the equine medicine portion because everything that goes wrong with the horse, the remedy is death. If he's broken his leg, specifically the remedy is you shoot them. So if the horse has broken his leg, you shoot it. If it has an obstruction in its bowels, you shoot it. If it has a zit, you shoot it. If it has, just anything at all, you shoot the horse. That's what this feels like. Like no matter what happened, death. I can hear him smiling and laughing and chanting as he's saying death, 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 death. It's, don't give me this old-timey crap, because I expect your supposedly holy God to be at a higher moral level than the people that he's preaching to. And if he's not, then he's no better than every one of these ancient jerks, and is not deserving in any way of worship from anyone. If a man takes his sister, a daughter of his father or a daughter of his mother, and sees her nakedness, and she sees his nakedness, it is a disgrace, and they shall be cut off in the sight of their people. He has uncovered his sister's nakedness, he shall be subject to punishment. If a man lies with a woman during her period and uncovers her nakedness, he has laid bare her flow, and she has laid bare her flow of blood. Both of them shall be cut off from their people. So the penalty for sleeping with a woman who's on her period is that you're both cut off from your people. First of all, how would they know? How would you know that this couple got together last night while she was on her period? So ridiculous and disgusting. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister or of your father's sister, for that is to lay bare one's own flesh. They shall be subject to punishment. If a man lies with his uncle's wife, he has uncovered his uncle's nakedness. They shall be subject to punishment. They shall die childless. If a man takes his brother's wife, it is impurity. He has uncovered his brother's nakedness. They shall be childless, which is really strange, because at other times you're expected to take your brother's wife. I guess it says if a man takes his brother's wife, it is impurity. I guess the assumption here is that your brother's still alive. Okay, but there's weird contradictions here, because clearly there is this ancient tradition that we saw writ large in Genesis, where one brother was expected to wed and bed the wife of his deceased brother. That's not even addressed here, so which is why it's weird. It's why it's weird to me. But whatever. You shall keep all my statutes and all my ordinances and observe them, so that the land to which I bring you to settle in may not vomit you out. Here we go with the vomiting out again. You shall not follow the practices of the nation that I am driving out before you, because they did all these things. I abhorred them. But I have said to you, you shall inherit their land, and I will give it to you to possess, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God. I have separated you from the peoples. You shall therefore make a distinction between the clean animal and the unclean, and between the unclean bird and the clean. You shall not bring abomination on yourselves by animal or by bird or by anything with which the ground teems, which I have set apart for you to hold unclean. You shall be holy to me, for I, the Lord, am holy, and I have separated you from the other peoples to be mine. A man or a woman who is again, we have to go with this shit. A man or a woman who is a medium or a spiritualist shall be put to death. They shall be stoned to death. Their blood guilt is upon them. Really? We should stone them for practicing something that doesn't even exist. This whole process here of saying how, once again, he's saying, yeah, I don't like the people in the other lands. I abhorred them. That's why I'm going to give you their land. I mean, you got to wonder, if he's such a great God, why couldn't he just convert the people who were already living in those lands? If you don't like what they're doing and you're such a great God. But of course, we know the answer to that, because they worship Molech and the Canaanite gods, and that pisses Yahweh off. But he's not a great enough God to actually convert them. Apparently, he doesn't have the ability to convert them, or at least no desire whatsoever. He'd rather just kill them. That's what he likes to do, kill them. You all doing the wrong. I mean, he does it with his own people. You're doing the wrong thing, kill them. Kill everyone. Death, 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 death. That is Leviticus 20. Leviticus 21 is the holiness of priests. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say to them, the ones you didn't burn to death, no one shall defile himself for a dead person among his relatives, except for his nearest kin, his mother, his father, his son, his daughter, his brother. Likewise, for a virgin sister close to him, because she has had no husband, he may defile himself for her. This whole idea that having to deal with a corpse defiles yourself. I get it. Corpse is bad, you know? I mean, we all have an ick factor around it, but you can't just leave corpses laying about. People got to deal with that stuff. And really, for many people, dealing with a corpse from someone that they know and love is an act of love. So this idea that just by touching a corpse, unless it's just the right relation to you, somehow defiles you. I understand. Go wash your hands afterwards, okay? That's fine. But this idea that you're defiled because your dad was on his deathbed and he breathed his last. Well, it says you can defile yourself, but dad was on his deathbed. He breathed his last, and a minute later, you somehow touched the body, and that defiles you. That is so sad and ignorant and bass-ackwards thinking. That's what it is. And if this was just a chronicle of how the people thought and what the people did, I'd say, wow, they were ancient people that didn't know better. But no, this is supposed to be a chronicle of the way that your stupid ass God thinks. Come on, man. Do better. But he shall not defile himself for those related to him by marriage and so profane himself. They shall not make bald spots upon their heads or shave off the edges of their beards or make any gashes in their flesh, which I guess were all ways of showing that you were mourning. They shall be holy to their God and not profane the name of their God, for they offer the Lord's offerings by fire, the food of their God. Therefore they shall be holy. They shall not marry a prostitute or a woman who has been defiled. Neither shall they marry a woman divorced from her husband. Oh, I know it's ancient times, but yeah, God forbid you're divorced. For they are holy to their God, and you shall treat them as holy, since they offer the food of your God. They shall be holy to you, for I, the Lord, I, who sanctify you, am holy. When the daughter of a priest profanes herself through prostitution, she profanes her father. She shall be burned to death. When the daughter of a priest profanes herself through prostitution, she shall be burned to death. What happens to the son of a priest who purchases the services of a prostitute? Oh, that's right. Nothing. Nothing happens to him. Because purchasing prostitutes, which in this context, because this is a book of sexual ignorance, in this context, the idea is that a prostitute is always a woman. And if you are purchasing these services from this woman, she can be put to death. But as a man, because again, in this context, the only one who would ever buy the services of a prostitute is a man, you're fine. Yeah. The priest who is exalted above his brothers, on whose head the anointing oil has been poured, and who has been consecrated to wear the vestments, shall not dishevel his hair nor tear his vestments. He shall not go where there is a dead body. He shall not defile himself even for his father or mother. He shall not go outside the sanctuary and thus profane the sanctuary of his God. For the consecration of the anointing oil of his God is upon him. I am the Lord. He shall marry only a woman who is a virgin, a widow or a divorced woman, or a woman who has been defiled, a prostitute. These he shall not marry. He shall marry a virgin of his own people, that he may not profane his offspring among his people. For I am the Lord, I sanctify him. It is interesting to see just the contrast here with, for example, the Catholic Church, where they just say that the priest can't get married, period. And a lot of that comes from the legacy handed down from Paul. But here, they're not claiming at all that you can't get married. They're just saying widow, bad. Divorced woman, bad. Prostitute, bad. Like, the fact that they put widow, divorced woman, and prostitute all in the same sentence, like just grouped together. Like, there's so much to be learned in these books and chapters that we've been reading. You can tell by how they group things together. You know, they put having sex with a woman on her period, child sacrifice, man on man sex, and bestiality all together in the same paragraph. Like they felt like these things are related. And here they're talking about who can marry, a priest. Well, a widow or a divorced woman or a woman who has been defiled, a prostitute, those he shall not marry. The fact that they put those together is just so demeaning to women. It's so gross. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to Aaron and say, no one of your offspring throughout their generations who has a blemish may approach to offer the food of his God. Indeed, no one who has a blemish shall draw near, one who is blind or lame, or one who is mutilated or deformed, or one who has a broken foot or a broken hand, or a hunchback or a dwarf." I'm sorry, that's not funny, but it's just so, it's so sad. "Or a man with a defect in his eyes, or an itching disease, or scabs, or crushed testicles." The poor dwarfs. If you're a dwarf, or if you have a hunchback, or you're treated as this gross thing that can't possibly draw near to God. That is so wrong. That is so wrong. And in some things too, like, or one who has a broken foot or a broken hand. That's so weird. I mean, if you break your foot or you break your hand, that's it. Even in the olden times, that's a temporary problem. You know, you get off your feet or your hand and you put a brace on it and you go about until it heals. Like, that makes you ineligible to be before the Lord, I guess. And a hunchback, what did they do? I mean, I know that they were looked down upon literally and figuratively, but it's not their fault. And the dwarf, they lump all this stuff together with dwarfs. That's so wrong. It is so wrong. How do you actually... Dwarfs get lumped together with those who have a defect in their eye, or an itching disease, or scabs, or crushed testicles. Having your testicles crushed is somehow analogous to being a dwarf in the eyes of the Christian and Hebrew God. Oh, that's so horrible. That's so horrible. "No descendant of Aaron the priest who has a blemish shall come near to offer the Lord's offerings by fire. Since he has a blemish, he shall not come near to offer the food of his God. He may eat the food of his God, of the most holy as well as of the holy, but he shall not come near the curtain or approach the altar, because he has a blemish. That he may not profane my sanctuaries, for I am the Lord, I sanctify them." Thus Moses spoke to Aaron and to his sons and to all the Israelites. Thank goodness we finally had the definitive word from God that dwarfs are bad and need to be kept separate from God and from the temple. And like, keep those filthy dwarfs away. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is so horrible. This is what people want, the loving God. Yeah. By the way, like a hunchback, that's usually a condition that develops over time. I know in rare circumstances, children can be almost born with really bad deformities. But usually if you have a hunchback, that's some kind of problem that has gotten worse and worse over time. But if you're a dwarf, you're born that way. You came out of the womb this way. So my point is, who made you that way? Was it God? But apparently you are defiled and you're unclean and you can't be coming to the temple and you can't be dealing with the sacrifice. And I know the answer to this. I'm just saying this facetiously, but like how can you be a little person and be in the church? I know that there are Christians who are, have all different types of dwarfism, I'm sure, but it's mind blowing to me that you can have a sentence like that and still be part of this faith. Like, wow. Okay. Boy, the hits just keep on rolling, don't they? By the way, our sponsor today is strawberry lemonade vodka and Monster. Yummy stuff. Leviticus 22 is the use of holy offerings. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Direct Aaron and his sons to deal carefully with the sacred donations of the Israelites, which they dedicate to me, so that they may not profane my holy name. I am the Lord. Say to them, if anyone among all your offspring throughout your generations comes near the sacred donations, which the Israelites dedicate to the Lord, while he is in a state of uncleanness, that person shall be cut off from my presence. I am the Lord. I am the Lord. I am the Lord. I am the Lord. I am the Lord." Did you know he's the Lord? He's the Lord. I am the Lord. I am the Lord. I am the Lord. I am the Lord. No one of Aaron's offspring who has a defiling skin disease or suffers a discharge may eat of the sacred donations until he is clean. Whoever touches anything made unclean by a corpse or a man who has had an emission of semen, and whoever touches any swarming thing by which he may be made unclean, or any human being by whom he may be made unclean, whatever his uncleanness may be, the person who touches any such shall be unclean until evening, and shall not eat of the sacred donations unless he has washed his body in water. When the sun sets, he shall be clean, and afterwards he may eat of the sacred donations, for they are his food. That which died or was torn by wild animals he shall not eat, becoming unclean by it. I am the Lord. They shall keep my charge, so that they may not incur guilt and die because of it for having profaned them. I am the Lord. I sanctify them. So, if you had a wet dream, you gotta keep your distance, because you are unclean for having a wet dream. And it doesn't even say whether the admission had to be voluntary or involuntary, so I assume this also applies to whether or not you jacked off today. If you have done some personal business and you have pleased yourself, then you better not be going near the temple. You better not be going near the altar, because God's gonna know. He's gonna burn you to death. He's gonna light you on fire. He's gonna be like, wait a minute, someone jacked off. I know it happened. It was you. It was you. And next thing you know, woof, you're up in flames. What if a dwarf jacked off and then went to the temple? Would it be like a nuclear explosion? I really think that like the entire Middle East would go up in flames if a dwarf jacked off, a hunchback dwarf jacked off and then went to the altar, the temple, and messed with oh man, we could take down all of Israel if a hunchback dwarf jacked off and went to the temple. Everything would just melt like the sun, like the middle of the sun. No layperson shall eat of the sacred donations. No bound or hired servant of the priest shall eat of the sacred donations. But if a priest acquires anyone by purchase, the person may eat of them, and those who are born in his house may eat of his food. Yes, you heard that correctly. Even the priests are more than welcome to start buying slaves if they haven't already. Every Christian, whoever wants to tell you that the Bible does not endorse slavery, is full of shit. It tells you that the priests are perfectly fine to be buying slaves. If a priest's daughter marries a layman, she shall not eat of the offering of the sacred donations. But if a priest's daughter is widowed or divorced without offspring and returns to her father's house as in her youth, she may eat of her father's food. No lay person shall eat of it. If a man eats of the sacred donation unintentionally, he shall add 1/5 of its value to it and give the sacred donation to the priest. No one shall profane the sacred donations of the Israelites which they offer to the Lord, causing them to bear guilt, requiring a guilt offering by eating their sacred donations. For I am the Lord, I am the Lord, I am the Lord. I sanctify them. Acceptable offerings. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron and his sons and all the Israelites, and say to them, When anyone of the house of Israel or of the aliens residing in Israel presents an offering, whether in payment of a vow or as a free will offering that is offered to the Lord as a burnt offering, to be acceptable on your behalf, it shall be a male without blemish, of the cattle or the sheep or the goats. You shall not offer anything that has a blemish, for it will not be acceptable on your behalf. This whole idea of blemishes, I do understand the idea that you don't want someone, if you think that the sacrifice is meaningful, you don't want someone to bring this broken down calf that was just about to die and say, look, I'm sacrificing it, because that's kind of like cheating the system, right? But this whole idea that they have a blemish, so if your livestock has a zit, God forbid you actually bring it in to get sacrificed, because you're probably going to get burned alive for that. And by the way, I would love to walk up. This would be probably seen as anti-Semitic or something, so I'd never actually do it. But I'd love to walk up to a modern, Jewish temple with an ox and just be like, here I am. I'm ready to make my sacrifice. What would they do? I don't know. I need to call some of my Jewish friends and be like, what? When they call the cops, or would they say, well, we only do that on Tuesdays here? I don't know. I just love to pull up with some animal and be like, I'm ready to sacrifice this animal right now. And can you sacrifice like a dog or a cat? That's horrible, I know. But they all talk about livestock here, ox, goats, lambs. But what can you sacrifice other? I don't know. Maybe, I guess the cats and dogs would be unclean animals because they don't have cloven hoofs or something like that. Or I don't know. They don't chew the. So I guess you can't sacrifice them. You can't sacrifice just anything. You have to sacrifice those animals or the birds or what have you. Okay. So at least I'm sitting here thinking in lean times that they start dragging their pets in for sacrifice, but no, I guess not, because most of the animals that they probably call pets would not qualify as being properly clean for sacrifice. When anyone offers a sacrifice of well-being to the Lord in fulfillment of a vow or as a free will offering from the herd or from the flock, to be acceptable, it must be perfect. It shall be perfect. The perfect cow. It should float, it should be emitting light like the perfect cow. There shall be no blemish in it. Anything blind or injured or maimed or having a discharge or an itch or scabs, or if it's a dwarf, these you shall not offer to the Lord, or put any of them on the altar as offerings by fire to the Lord. An ox or a lamb that is deformed or stunted you may present for a free will offering, but it will not be accepted for a vow. So I guess you can sacrifice dwarf cows or lambs. That's basically what it's saying. But it's only a free will offering. Any animal that has its testicles bruised or crushed or torn or cut, what happened to these animals? My gosh, you shall not offer to the Lord. Such you shall not do within your land, nor shall you accept any such animals from a foreigner to offer as food to your God, since they are mutilated with a blemish in them. They shall not be accepted on your behalf. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, When an ox or a sheep or a goat is born, it shall remain 7 days with its mother, and from the 8th day on it shall be acceptable as the Lord's offering by fire. But you shall not slaughter, from the herd or the flock, an animal with its young on the same day. When you sacrifice a thanksgiving offering to the Lord, you shall sacrifice it so that it may be acceptable on your behalf. It shall be eaten on the same day. You shall not leave any of it until morning, because I am the Lord and I hate leftovers. Thus you shall keep my commandments and observe them. I am the Lord. You shall not profane my holy name, that I may be sanctified among the Israelites. I am the Lord. I sanctify you. I who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord. You know how you can sit there like in Microsoft Word or whatever, and you can copy a phrase and then hit, Control C copies it, Control V pastes it. I just think that somebody could have saved so much time in the Bible if they had modern technology, and they could have Control V, I'm the Lord, 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 like just over and over and over and over and over. Like all work and no play makes Yahweh a dull boy. All work and no play makes Yahweh a dull boy. That's what we really should have here, because we just keep hearing that he's the Lord. Did you know he's the Lord? He's the Lord. Yeah, he really is the Lord. Who'd have thunk it? Oh, man. Okay, so that is as far as we are going to get today. That was Leviticus. Oh, what did I do now? That was Leviticus 22. So much joy, so much fun with Yahweh, the good God, the benevolent God, so slow to anger. Death. He's a beautiful God unless you're a dwarf or a hunchback. And then you should just go find a different religion. That's so sad. It's not funny. It's not funny at all, but sometimes you just have to laugh at this shit because it's so disgusting that sometimes you just have to read this and think, does anyone else actually read this? Do they read it and actually process what the words say? Because if you do, how can you even abide by this? It's so disgusting. Well, I'm so glad we've had this time together. Once again, I want to thank you if you are one of the few people who are here at the end of this show. I also want to, once again, implore you to make some better life choices. But I'm glad for now that you're here. I'm hoping that you've enjoyed the show. And next time we will get into Leviticus 23. It won't be long before we will be done with Leviticus. And we will have 3 books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, knocked down. So we're almost there. Thank you for being with me. I appreciate your time so much. Hope to see you again soon.